If you use Google Tag Manager to install third-party scripts on your site, this video is for you. Marketers paste JavaScript into Google Tag Manager every day. There are scripts for analytics tools, live chats, pixels, and many don't realize that adding unknown JavaScript to the site can be potentially very dangerous. I started to realize that risk is a real problem when I saw that people were skeptical to install GTM Split, which is a free split testing tool I created. And it's really, really powerful. And again, it's free. So I didn't understand why people are not trying it. And then I understood that the main reason is that people are afraid of what the script can do to their website. So in this video, I'm going to show you a method to check what third-party scripts are doing to your website and evaluate if it's safe to install them. Now, I will make the example using GTM Split container, but this applies to really any script. So what I want you to take away from this video really is not if GTM Split is good or bad, but I wanted to learn the methodology because we should really do this with any script before we install them in Tag Manager. So I'm going to use ChatGPT to do this. And I made here a little prompt. Actually, it's quite a long prompt, basically saying that I'm going to drop the GTM container. The audience is not technical, so the answer has to be not at code level, but at high level. The goal is to explain what is in the code, what the code does, and which risks it may introduce. So focus on safety, trust, and failure modes. Assume the site is production, which is very important, so it shouldn't break the site. Constraints: do not use developer jargon. Explain in plain English. If something is safe, say so clearly. If something is risky, explain the impact, not the implementation details. So you see, these are just high-level instructions to get something out that we can understand. Keep it concise, assumptions. The code may be pasted blindly by a marketer. I'm just gonna drop the container in the chat. And no one will monitor after installation. And failure should never block the page or break the site. Analyze the file attached, confirm you understand this context, and wait for my question. So now I'm going to drop the container, which is this one here. And container here is loading. And as soon as it's loaded, okay, I'm going to press this and we get an answer like immediately. Okay, here you see we got the acknowledgement from ChatGPT. Now I'm going to switch to voice and I'm going to ask questions. Okay, my first question here is, at high level, what is the purpose of this code?
Sure. In a nutshell, this code is all about running A/B tests on your website using Google Tag Manager. Basically, it helps you show different versions of a page to different visitors, so you can see which version performs better. It's designed to keep the page from flickering or looking odd while the test runs, and it assigns visitors to a test group using a cookie. Bottom line, the main purpose is to let you test different page versions easily and safely to see what works best.
Okay, second question, does this code make any network calls or interact with third-party endpoints?
All right, so this particular code you've got doesn't reach out to any outside services or third-party endpoints on its own. It works entirely on your site and uses cookies and the data layer in Google Tag Manager. In other words, it's self-contained and doesn't send information off to some external service on its own. That means you don't have to worry about it suddenly talking to a random outside server. Bottom line, no, this code stays on your site and doesn't make outside network calls.
Okay, thanks. So third question, when does this code execute in the page lifecycle, and does it run synchronously or asynchronously?
Absolutely. So this code runs pretty early in the page's lifecycle. It kicks in right after the page starts loading, and it tries to prevent any visual flickers by running as soon as possible. It's also designed to run in a way that won't block the page. In other words, it's asynchronous. That means it's not going to stop the page from loading or slow things down noticeably. It just works quietly in the background once the page is on its way. Bottom line, it runs early, but doesn't block your page, and it runs asynchronously, so everything continues to load smoothly.
All right, question number 4. Could this code affect page performance, layout stability, or user experience in any way?
Absolutely. So let's break that down in simple terms. This code is designed to avoid messing up your page's look and feel. It tries to keep things stable by preventing any flickering or shifting around of content. Most of the time, visitors won't notice anything unusual. That said, if something does go wrong, the code is built to quickly stop and let the page show normally, so it won't break your site or leave it looking weird for long. Bottom line, it's made to keep your layout stable and user experience smooth, and if anything goes wrong, it'll fail gracefully without causing big issues.
Okay, building on that, what happens if this code fails to execute or encounters an unexpected condition?
Sure thing. If this code ever fails to run or hits a surprise problem, it's built to fail gracefully. In other words, if something goes wrong, the page will just show up as it normally would without the test. The site won't break and visitors won't see an error. It's kind of like a safety net that makes sure if the code can't run, the page still works fine. Bottom line, if it fails, your site will just behave like normal and users probably won't even notice anything happened.
Okay, is there any risk of partial failure causing inconsistent or hard to debug states?
Absolutely. That's a great question. In plain terms, partial failures can happen, but this code is designed to keep them from causing real headaches. If one part of the test doesn't load or a variation doesn't show up, the page will just fall back to its normal state. That means visitors might just see the original version of the page instead of the test version, but nothing should break. Bottom line, yes, partial failures can happen, but if they do, the page will just show its usual content and won't create a mess that's hard to figure out.
Okay, that's good to know. Well, one question about cookies. Does this code read or write to cookies or local storage?
Yes, absolutely. This code does use cookies. It sets a special cookie to remember which version of the page a visitor is assigned to, so when they come back, they stay in the same test group. It also uses a bit of local storage for debugging if you turn that mode on, but it's mainly the cookie that keeps track of who sees what. Bottom line, yes, it does read and write a cookie so it can keep track of each visitor's test group.
Okay, final question. Can this code cause permanent damage to the site? And can it be safely disabled or rolled back?
Absolutely, let's put it simply. This code won't cause any permanent damage to your site. It doesn't make any lasting changes to your content or structure. If you ever need to turn it off, you can just disable it in Google Tag Manager and everything goes back to normal right away. There's no leftover impact once you remove it. Bottom line, no, it won't cause permanent harm. And yes, you can safely turn it off whenever you need to.
All right, you see, this is awesome because if you cannot read JavaScript, you can use ChatGPT to understand the code you are about to install in Tag Manager. So this, I think it's a big relief for all the marketers out there that they are afraid to do something that breaks the site. These were just 9 questions, 9 example questions. And the point really wasn't about GTM split. I didn't ask, is GTM split good or bad? I just showed you that this you can ask questions to understand what the code does. And I believe this is very important. So with these questions, I try to understand what the code actually does when it runs, what it can or cannot break, which data it touches, and how bad can things get if something goes wrong. I think these are the most important aspects that businesses should care about when going to modify the setup of Tag Manager in a way that it affects the entire site. So the takeaway is not you can trust this tool. The takeaway is you have just seen how to reason about the risk before you install something into Tag Manager. That is the point. By the way, if you like this video, click the like button for me so I can understand that this stuff is interesting and I can make more of this content for you. Now, you can try this with any JavaScript you have in Tag Manager. Even this one-line JavaScript with a single line of JavaScript inside, where is usually there is a link to a file, a JavaScript file, that you can take and paste in the browser. Then you see the entire JavaScript, you copy that, you give it to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT will do just the same as we have done now. It will explain to you what the code does, if there are any network calls that are loading other JavaScript. That frankly, it is the biggest risk, that what you are installing in Tag Manager is not everything. There are other pieces of code that are loaded asynchronously. And so in the end of the story, you don't know what the code does and what is loading on the site. And I think it's important to understand that before you deploy the code on production. Now, it goes without saying that whenever you try something in Tag Manager, you always have to use the preview mode and never submit the container without testing it, okay? So always preview the container before you publish it live. Sometimes we are in a rush, we just drop the thing into Tag Manager and hit submit. This is very, very wrong. At the very least, you should try it and make sure that there are no errors, okay? So this is a check you must always do. But yeah, I hope this video helps you become a better operator, thinking about risk before adding to Google Tag Manager scripts that you are not entirely sure are safe to run on production. Okay, that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.